My name is Jerry Gill. Today is April 7th, 2010. I'm visiting with Amy Weeks on the Oklahoma State University campus in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And this interview is for the O State Storage Project of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. And this is a follow-up to our first interview, Amy, and I appreciate you taking time, a second time, to visit with us, okay?
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to ask you if maybe we could kind of recap a couple of things in our conversation. I'm trying to get a sense of the status of the program when you played. You first came in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe later we'll talk some things about changes under your leadership later.
Okay.
First of all, I wanted to get a sense again of the kind of amount of travel in terms. How many you had a fall and a spring season?
Mm-hmm. About
how many tournaments would you do each season?
You would play approximately 3 or 4 tournaments in the fall, and then 3 or 4 tournaments in the spring, plus the postseason. So the Big 12 or the Big 8 championship,
okay.
The regional qualifier, and then if you qualified for the national championship tournament.
Okay. Those would usually be you take off on a Thursday, and it'd be like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
That's right. We would travel on Wednesdays typically, and have a practice round on Thursday. You'd play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Occasionally, you'd travel, on a Thursday, and you'd play a 36-18 tournament where you'd play 36 holes in one day, or sometimes you played on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It just depended on when the golf course was available and what part of the country it was in.
Well, speaking of that, where were the tournaments held? What parts of the country were you in?
For myself as an athlete, it was all over the place. It was in...
Amy, we were talking about your travel situation, number of tournaments you were playing.
Right, and areas of the country. So we played all over the country. It just depended. I mean, sometimes we played in Kansas and Texas and New Mexico and California and Florida. Played at different university courses around the country. Sometimes in Georgia. It was different every year.
The West Coast and back south.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'd go to Las Vegas and play a tournament, or we played in UCLA's tournament in California outside Palm Springs, or we played in San Jose's tournament outside Monterey, played in Stanford's tournament there at Stanford University Golf Course, played in the Betsy Rawls in Austin, Texas, played at University of Florida's golf course. It varied. Furman's golf course, we went there when I was in college.
How did they compare with the men's program? Were they playing about the same number of tournaments, do you recall?
Oh, yeah, everybody has the same number of playing dates.
So the men's and the women's program played about the same number of playing days and tournaments?
Yes, you play the same number of playing dates a year.
Okay, right. And you were laughing about your travel, some with 15-person bands, but you did fly a lot to your distance.
Right. So
the funding was there for travel and
yes,
fishing. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we had a great travel schedule.
That's super. Okie dokie. Well, Amy, I want to come back to the point where you'd had a very successful career as a student athlete, and then you'd worked as a student coach.
Mm-hmm.
But now Ann had stepped down. This was in 2000, and so you're the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And your first thought must have been, "Gee, I got to know what the heck do I do with this?"
Right.
So what was your when you first thought about that? Did you feel a little overwhelmed following a legend like Coach Pitts?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it was being overwhelmed. I do remember after I was an assistant, trying to make a decision, is this something that I really want to do, and trying to take it obviously very seriously and very businesslike and professionally, and really trying to prepare myself for the travel and the recruiting involved. And I remember after I was named head coach thinking, wow, there's no one else to blame if something goes wrong. And I did not have an assistant coach. So it was just me, and I remember thinking, everything is 100% my responsibility. The players are my responsibility. Their performance is my responsibility. The budget's my responsibility. Their health and wellness is obviously somewhat my responsibility. Their fitness is my responsibility. And I remember thinking, wow, there's no one else to blame. I can't hide behind anybody else and say, well, they're partly to blame for this, or because that person didn't do X, Y, or Z, that's why it didn't work. But I think that was actually really good for me. So,
what can you describe some of your, more than duties, and what are the things you did? What were some of your activities as a coach? Since you didn't have an assistant coach, you must have had a broad array of things you were.
You did everything. I mean, from be there at every single workout to obviously manage and run every single practice to correspond with every single recruit to plan all the travel and all the hotels and all the budget expenses, all their uniforms, all of their golf club and equipment management with the contracts, with the manufacturers, all the team travel schedule for the tournaments, all the entry fees and the correspondence for that. And then the recruiting and the relationships on top of that, whether it be, just talking to people that never had a chance to play here but still communicating with them, or actually, actively recruiting players to come to Oklahoma State, managing the roster.
And how many hours a day were you working literally in this?
Well, I just think it's like any coach. You come into the office, and I wasn't necessarily one that was here at 8 o'clock in the morning. On some days I was, but we had workouts at 6 a.m. So you get up, you be at the 6 a.m. workout, come home, shower, breakfast, and come to the office. And you're at the office until noon, and you go to the golf course and have lunch or wherever else, and then you're at the golf course till 5 or 6 every day.
And then afterwards, you're writing letters to students.
I did most of that in the mornings, in my office hours.
That's great. What, kind of from your opinion, what was the status of the program when you took over? Can you kind of summarize what you thought were the strengths of the program?
Sure.
Areas that you thought need to be improved too, maybe?
Yeah. I think, the program was definitely a top 20 program in the country, and we had some very good athletes individually. I remember, Maria Bowden was a first team All-American that I was able to coach as an assistant coach. And I think she was a senior that last year. Yeah, I did not coach her as a head coach, but she was a senior that last year. I was an assistant. And she was very, very talented and really, really good. And so she went to the national championship twice as an individual. And so I was able to have that experience at the national championship, which really gave me some time to reflect and think, okay, this is what we need to do to get our team here. This is where our team needs to be when I was an assistant coach. But some of the changes or some of the strengths that we had as a team, I think that we had a really good time. We had a great schedule. We definitely were playing the competition in order to give ourselves a chance to be the best. We just needed to work on, I think we needed to get some better recruits. We need to increase our athleticism on the team and kind of our work ethic, maybe tighten some things up as far as, I wouldn't say rules or really discipline issues, but just make sure everybody understood that the reason they were there and that they needed to all pull in one direction. And once we got a few different recruits, then things really picked up very quickly.
Did you set some goals for the program?
Yeah, every year you sit down and go through, what you want to do. And I'm not really kind of a, set your goals and put them on a piece of paper and put them up on the wall person. I think it's kind of hokey for whatever reason. I don't know. But, it was obviously, my job to get the most out of our athletes. And I felt that if I did the little things every single day to make our team better, then we would be at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the year. And then we would become, a better team, attract a higher quality recruit, and then have a chance to win the national championship. And really, that was what we talked about, winning the Big 12 and the national championship. It's the one thing that the women's golf program has not done. They still haven't won a national championship, and it was definitely the direction that I wanted to take that team.
And before you got there, because you were talking about Bowden and as an individual playing the tournament, you had to qualify at the regional to go to nationals as a team.
Right.
And how frequently was that happening before you become head coach?
What, the individuals or the whole team would go?
The team qualified.
I think they qualified like almost every year. I know we qualified in 93 or 94, my freshman year. I know we did not qualify in 95 because I played in that regional and we missed it by a few shots, which was very disappointing. My junior year, I don't know that we did. And then my senior year, I don't know that they did either, quite honestly. Then we may have qualified that first year as an assistant. I don't know. I'd have to look at the records, Jerry. I know Maria qualified two or three out of 4 years, and maybe we took a team one of those years. I have to go back and look. It's a little bit muddy in my head. But we definitely needed to get back to, qualifying every single year. And I think since that first year that I was head coach, they have qualified for the national championship every year.
And how many teams qualify for the national tournament?
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. What were, in your mind, what were some of the challenges that you faced as a first-time head coach?
I can't say that I really remember being challenged by anything. It was very important for me there were some athletes on the team that didn't really belong there, that I had inherited. And so I tried to place them at other universities or, see if they really wanted to continue to play golf. And we tightened up the roster a little bit and got it down to a manageable number for me of people that were more competitive. That was a challenge. And then also just attracting a higher quality and a higher caliber athlete to compete. And so it was, really about getting out there and talking to parents and young people about Oklahoma State University and what we had to offer and what Karsten Creek had to offer and the practice facility and the perks that go along with that, the environment of practicing and playing golf with some of the best men's golfers in the country, using that as a catalyst.
So if I kind of summarize a little bit, Amy, some of your expectations or goals, however you want to phrase that, were to qualify for the national every year, to compete for national championship, and to do that, one of your key goals was to strengthen your quality if you're going to be
right. We had to recruit better players, and I mean the way I looked at it, Jerry, quite honestly, was that I needed better players than I ever was when I was in college, because we needed to do better. Well, it's pretty obvious that okay, if I played on a team that had X amount of results and we need to step up, well then, it's pretty easy to judge. Well, if I was pretty good at this, I need to get somebody twice as good. I mean, it's just I know it's kind of elementary, but we just had to get better players.
Could you talk a little bit about your strategy for recruiting?
It was be present at every major junior golf tournament, to wear orange, wear the OSU brand, just to try to outwork other coaches, just recruiting, parents and building relationships and really selling the program and selling the brand of the women's program and the history that we had. Did
you visit with a lot of parents in the
yes.
summer programs? Could you do that? Make contact with
you
parents?
can talk to parents at certain times, and so building a lot of relationships.
How did you? I mean, it's probably to you maybe a very simple question, but how did you identify those student athletes that you wanted to recruit?
Well, I mean, first of all, you kind of go regional and say, okay, who are the best players out of this region that may have an affinity for Oklahoma State or may be comfortable here. And you try that route, and then you say, okay, who's in Texas, and who might want to come to Oklahoma State from Texas, and then you say, well, here's in California, and I mean, I've recruited kids from all over the country, or you have a connection through a swing coach, and say, well, I know so and so, and they say you're really good, and you go watch them and see if they fit your program. I mean, it's not a science, that's for sure. It's really more get out and work and go through the players, see whose personality might fit yours as a coach, see whose personalities or where they come from with their families might fit Stillwater, and just kind of go from there and build people that would stay and play 4 years and participate and want to graduate.
Did OSU have a pretty good reputation at that time?
Absolutely. But we had slipped, in the late 90s as far as not going to national tournaments. And that's something that I tried to really affect when I was recruiting as an assistant coach, is try to get out and be visible and really change that, that look. We had a lot of international athletes during that time, and that sometimes that's great, but at the same time, you don't have people from the United States. People don't talk about OSU as much, obviously. If you've got a kid we had Swedish athletes primarily. So if they're, in Sweden, we had a great reputation, but we need to have a great reputation in Texas. Yeah. So just changing that environment.
Did you feel that you had the support of the athletic administration?
Absolutely.
And sufficient resources to achieve your goals of being nationally competitive?
Absolutely, I did. And I think that comes from golf being a long-time sport here in the department. And, our budget had grown, over the years. And so it was very sufficient. And I tell you, really the blessing for golf was the relationship that we had with Karsten Manufacturing, with Ping Golf Clubs, with other manufacturers like Titleist and FootJoy, and and just the product that they were able to sponsor us with was, helped tremendously. And being a part of the bag program with Ping, and Karsten Manufacturing was huge. I mean, they gave us travel bags and the golf bags, and there was things that you could supplement out of your budget that I never would have been able to afford if we had only had to use our equipment budget. So.
You mentioned the budget. Did you recall when you started what the budget was?
I could not even get close to tell you. No. I just managed it year by year. I have no idea what that total number is in my head. I'm sorry.
just worked out somehow.
Right. It was something that I really couldn't control, so I didn't worry about it. I just managed the resources with what we had and moved on down the road.
What was the salary of the head coach at that time?
I think when I was hired, I made like $42,000, and then I think the last years that I coached, I made like 50 something.
Was that comparable with other Big 12 programs? Do you think?
I think it was a little lower actually. Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe a little about your coaching philosophy? You touched on aspects of it, but a little bit how you approach coaching.
Approach coaching. It's pretty broad. Let me find a. I don't know. I guess, Jerry, I just wanted to provide an environment where young people had a lot of fun. They wanted to go to the golf course every day and practice and play. They were proud to play for Oklahoma State. They were proud of their teammates and the other people that they competed with, which I felt, gave them more sense of responsibility. Because golf's an individual sport, and so it's a little bit different when you play it as a team. And so I felt like, if they like each other and they care about each other, then they're probably going to do better for each other, out on the golf course. And we just tried to play the game with a lot of respect and pride and, win, beat people.
Just beat people. That sounds good. I was interviewing an individual who was talking about Coach Gallagher was his coach in wrestling. He said, what philosophy did he give you? He said, go out there and pin them.
Yeah.
That's got to sound like your philosophy. Just go out there and beat them.
I know. I think that there's a strong, if whoever's leading your group, if you really focus your attention on certain areas, the people tend to follow, and they'll kind of emulate whatever everybody else is talking about.
So, Amy, how did you set up your week of practice? You talking about your morning workouts afternoon. Could you kind of go through a week and have what you?
Yeah, sure. We would always take one day off a week, so either a Sunday or a Monday, typically based on travel. Sometimes our day off day was our travel day. So, for instance, Wednesday was our day off, and we'd play a tournament Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back in the gym. Sometimes I'd give a Monday off, depending on how late we got in on Sunday night. But we were back at the golf course on Monday afternoon. Occasionally we'd have to deal with test schedules, or, sometimes you need a day of the week when you're in college just to take care of your bills, or go grocery shopping, or get your oil changed in your car, or whatever it is. So I just try to work out individual times with the team, and we'd talk about it as a group, what the week schedule looked like, and get it out ahead of time. And but pretty much your travel schedule's set, before the year begins. So you can kind of get that onto the calendar. Then you can work your qualifying days to get your top 5 or top 4 chosen after that. And then you can set up your other open days to have, open practice and short game practice, or go to a different golf course and play. And
what about your morning workouts? At 6:30?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. Wow. That had to be exciting for the players.
Yeah, they didn't like it, but I hated it more. So.
And what did you do in those workouts?
Well, Gary Calcagno was our strength coach when I was the head coach, and he still works here at OSU in the strength and conditioning program. And so, every year he and I would sit down, we'd kind of look at the athletes we had and kind of figure out, where we needed to go with them. And he would run them through a warm-up. He would run them through a stretching routine, which is critical for flexibility. He would do a tremendous amount of core strengthening with them and ab work. He would run them through a lift circuit of upper and lower body workouts. We did a lot of agility ladder exercises, and then they did really a lot of core strengthening. So left-right integration, I don't know, we would get on these foam rollers and they'd lay on these foam rollers, which makes you balance, your body on it. And then you'd lift your legs and your arms, together in different areas to really use your body weight to help you strengthen your core, to really help with your muscles when you turn and increase power and stuff like that. But
Amy, was that different from when you played in earlier?
Yes,
that how
very
the sport
different.
Was, so the off season, the strength and conditioning during season and off season program.
We did not have an off season program when I was an athlete, but Ann may have said she encouraged us to exercise or something, but we didn't have anything written down. And then also, like I said yesterday, we walked the stadium stairs. Yeah, she was big on lower body strength. So and it was effective. It really was. It was very good for your cardiovascular part. So but when you're walking on the golf course and I didn't do a lot of running with the team. They could do some individual cardio. And some of them like to run. Some of them like to get on the Stairmaster. Some of them like to do the elliptical. So we did not have a lot of machines at that time when I was coaching downstairs. We have a lot more now. So I probably would do it a little differently now if I had to do it all over again. It would have been a lot more fun. We have more equipment to use.
What about, we talked about the off season. I guess the off season for someone wasn't off in the sense it was in the summer would be because you played in the fall and spring. So during the year there's really no what you'd call off season.
That's correct.
But it'd be the summer season. A lot of your golfers were competing.
Yes.
I guess, but did you prescribe an off-season program for them in addition to golfing?
Yeah, we obviously encourage them to stay fit, and Gary would give them a take-home for the summer. But quite honestly, they played so much golf in the summer that that was about their only really recovery time, and they were traveling and playing in national golf tournaments, around and regional around the country, and some of them around the world. The international athletes were playing, different places around the world. So, they were playing golf basically all year round.
So interesting. Are there any particular personal attributes or coaching skills that you consider to be your strength? If someone said, Amy, what is a coach? Kind of be objective, step outside yourself. What would you say were your strengths as a coach?
I don't know. I'd like to think that I was generally a pretty good decision maker, good or bad. I kind of enjoy the decision making process and analyzing the problem and trying to get to the end result. So I think I was pretty good at kind of picking maybe the right decision or whatever. I tried to be very supportive of women's golf when I was a coach. So I wanted those athletes to know that was the most important thing to me, and try to show them with my time and effort that was the most important thing in my life. I tried to actually have a good time when I was a coach too, and I enjoyed taking them to nice restaurants and to nice places to see parts of the country so that we had a good time when we traveled.
And speaking of that, just interjecting, you'd mentioned earlier in our earlier interview that really you stayed in quality places.
Yeah.
When you traveled, it was a good quality, good time, and good facilities.
Oh yeah, absolutely, great. And I don't know. I'd like to think that I had a good. Actually, and I get a little fired up about stuff, especially when I watch sports now, and people say, "How are you ever a golf coach?" But I'd like to think that I was able to. It's a little bit different, when you're doing that in that environment. I was able to kind of calm down and just take, whatever was happening right there in that moment, and try to address that one situation or that one shot with an athlete, and not, overinflate it to something bigger. There may have been a lot of things going on in my head, but not that. I hope that player didn't think so. That it was that one shot, and that's all we needed to worry about at that time.
And obviously, from your conversation, you had to have been, a pretty good recruiter.
Yeah, I think that's. I think communication and relationships and selling a program. I think I was good at that. Yeah.
So you're good at the selling part of the promoting the program, coaching. Sound like a good package.
I don't know if it worked. we did okay for 4 years.
You had some pretty amazing years of coaching in 4 years in terms of results of the program, and I want to summarize some of these and ask you to help me out on what I missed.
Well, I won't remember. I'll have to go look at a media guide.
Well, I think there were 3 Big 12 championships out of the 4 years, and a runner-up that 4th year. and was capped by a second place finish. And it was the 2004 NCAA tournament, and runner up was the highest we'd ever had in our program ever. But didn't quite get the national championship, but second place.
Two shots. We lost by 2 shots.
Who'd you lose to?
UCLA.
UCLA. Gosh darn. You won several other major tournaments across the country. Can you share some special highlights? Winning, yes, but just events, individual things that stand out in your mind, special memories you have.
Sure. I think, I was head coach for 4 years, and we finished in the top 5 at the national championship 3 of those 4 years. And I think, honestly, when it really first got started was that very first year. And I didn't have a very deep team. I had 4 players, and then I asked a walk-on. Well, I had a walk-on on the team, Julie Jakes, and she had been participating for about 3 years. And she was a good golfer. She wasn't a great player. And great young lady. And it basically, we could have played just about any of our other players in that 5th spot, and it probably would have all worked out the same. That's my instinct. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody could have done who knows what, right? But Julie, I did a sudden death playoff for a qualifying, and it was hole by hole, and whoever stayed in the longest was going to go to the rest of the season tournaments.
Wow.
And maybe that was a good idea, maybe it was a bad idea, I don't know. But it just seemed the thing to do at the time. And so Julie qualified, and she played with us at the Big 12 and the regional and the national championship. And I'd have to look back at the scores to see where her score counted. And I don't know exactly where the regional was played that year. I'd have to look it up as well. But the Big 12 was played at Iowa State, and the weather was really, really, really bad. But we counted her score one of those rounds, which helped us win. And then at the regional, I don't know where we qualified, but we did qualify, which was a huge accomplishment. And I don't know if her score contributed then or not. But then at the national championship, we went to Florida, and we're playing a golf course. I don't know, somewhere maybe outside of Jacksonville or something. I'd have to look. And one of our very best players, Linda Westberg, who plays the LPGA and European LPGA still today, a very good player. She began to get heat exhaustion. And so the national championship is a 4-day event. So we had been out there for 2 practice rounds, 6 days. This was the 6th day of golf. It was 100% humidity, very, very hot in Florida. And it was at the mid of May, and it was abnormally hot. And she began to get heat exhaustion. And Julie, just her score started just hanging around, around a few over par, and just kept staying right there at a few over par and a few over par, and she'd make a bogey, but then she'd make a birdie, and then she'd make a par, and I just kept thinking, wow, I mean, we're going to count her score today. And Linda, basically, I mean, she didn't quit. I mean, she kept playing, but I think she shot like 80 something, and I think Julie shot like a 77 or something like that, and we counted that score, and it kept us in 5th place.
Wow.
Well, that was a huge turning point, I think, for me as a coach and for our program, for us to have adversity, have what I considered to be a shallow roster, and for her to come in and contribute, and for us to finish 5th at the national championship. We played in the leader group the last day. We'd have to go look back, Jerry, at the parents. We played in the leader group, I think, 2 of those 4 rounds. And for me to gain that experience, I remember calling Coach Holder when I was at that event saying, hey, you got any tips for me? I think he said something like stay out of their way or something like that. Just, yeah, you're right. But it was very exciting, and we were in contention, and and in the top 3 and in the top 4 and in the leader group pairings throughout that week, and it was exciting, and I remember that feeling, and I remember thinking, this is exactly what it's supposed to be like, and this is what we're supposed to do. And so then after that, it became, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together to do it. But I've told that story a few times to a few people because it just seemed to really shift the expectation of the women's program. And I had some young players on the team that year, and then they understood this is what we're supposed to do, and now this is what we have to do to get there.
Great
and
start.
to get better.
Well, how did that runner-up year feel? It was in 2004?
Well, it didn't feel very good, to be quite honest with you.
Can you share a little bit of the highlights of that tournament?
Yeah, that was a tough year. But we had a great team, and probably if not the best team we've ever had, here as far as, and I think I would have traded maybe a few athletes, but it was an interesting year. I had 3 freshmen actually on that team.
Wow.
And one of them was a redshirt freshman, 2 of them were true freshmen, and I don't think we had a senior on the team. But Karin Shadeen played very well, and Annie Young played very well, and then I had Candy Herrera from California, who's kind of an up and down player, and then 2 young freshmen from Texas, Mallory Underwood and Ashley Knoll. Ashley Knoll ended up transferring to Texas A&M, but it was an interesting group, and it was just a great week of golf. And for some reason, things just kind of clicked. The funny thing about that whole month before is that in April we had not won the Big 12, which was very disappointing.
First time in your career.
Yeah, it was rained out. Basically, the last day was rained out.
Oh.
So I really have a very bitter taste in my mouth.
And how many strokes were you off at that time?
It was a few. But I felt like in the 4th round, which was thrown out, we were coming back. And I mean, if we gathered up all the scorecards and looked at it, we might have even been ahead. But anyway, so that was hard to swallow, and I didn't like that very much. And then we went to regionals, and we qualified for the national championship in a playoff.
Wow.
Against the University of Florida, ironically on the same golf course that we played that first national championship my first year as head coach. And we won on the very first hole, which was good that it didn't have to go more. And we beat Florida in a sudden death playoff with all 5 players from both teams. And then we went to the national championship and kind of never looked back. We played great golf at Auburn that year, and it was a lot of fun.
Had to be.
We had a lot of rain delays that week too at Auburn. A lot of on and off the golf course.
What was the stroke, up or down, going in the final round?
I don't remember.
You just remember you were 2 strokes short at the end there.
Yeah, and I think we led 1 or 2 rounds.
You've kind of spoken to it generally, but maybe ask it again. How in your 4 years, and maybe even tackling, say, your 3 years as assistant coach, but particularly in your 4 years, over that 7-year program, how had, as you look back on how the program evolved, how had it changed, and in what ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it a few times. I mean, I think that we had a higher quality recruit coming in, people that wanted to be golfers, and tried to play professional golf, that were highly ranked amateurs, had a lot of national and international experience. I think the athleticism of our team had improved. I think the expectations of themselves had improved. I mean, just the overall, the total package improved.
And your strength and conditioning program, you'd indicated was a definite change in the program.
Yeah, it improved. Just different. Maybe it wasn't better. Maybe we could have been just as good if we had done the same thing we'd always done.
Administrative, in other words, had your budget been about the same over those 7 years, or
I don't know, Jerry. I can't say that I ever really paid a lot of attention to those things. I felt like it was my job to take the resources that were given to me and to manage them effectively and to use them for the athletes to the best of my ability. And I can't tell you if our budget increased or decreased over those 7 years. I have no idea.
It's interesting. You're so focused on the coaching aspect, huh?
Well, I mean, it just was such a, you coach in golf, you try to teach young people to focus on what they can control and to pay attention and put time and energy and effort into things that can help them be better. And worrying about a budget is certainly not one of them.
Okay. You mentioned some of your players. Are there some favorite players that you talked about? Some of them you mentioned earlier, but anyone else you'd want to mention to stand out in your mind in your 4 years?
I mean, great players. I mean, all the young ladies: Linda Westberg, Annie Young, who's our head coach now, Karin Shadeen, Christy Cano, Emma Zackerson. I'm going to forget somebody. That's not good for me to do this. I need a list. Jennifer Carr played good rounds for us. Candy Herrera played a few good rounds for us. Mallory Underwood. had a huge tournament in Auburn that last year as a true freshman and finished 10th, which was a big deal for her. And Ashley Knoll put some good rounds together. She didn't stay at Oklahoma State, which was disappointing, but was certainly a good player. Before that, Maria Bowden and Linda and Julie helped us, and we had an Australian kid come in, but never really turned out to be anything that stuck with us. But there were some great young people,
And you mentioned, I'm going to ask it again. I know I'm getting kind of repetitive in the questions, but if there's one thing you had to put your finger on and say that attributed to the success of the program when you come in and when you left, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Luck, I guess.
Certainly, you had mentioned several times the quality of the student athletes that you had.
Yeah, they were a lot better than the total package of team that I played on. I mean, we had one or two great players when I was playing, but I felt like the depth was better, so. But maybe not. Maybe it was just luck.
Looking back on your coaching career, what gives you the most satisfaction?
That everybody graduates, that everybody had a really good time. This is going to sound ridiculous, but that Annie Young learned to eat steak medium rare. As opposed to well done. Winning tournaments is great and it's awesome, and I'm very, very proud of, the record that our team had competitively. But, the fact that we didn't ever have any major problems, and, people stuck around and they graduated, and we had some players come in and transfer out, but it was because they either weren't getting playing time or Oklahoma State wasn't the right fit for them. And I just think generally I'm proud of the fact that we competed at a very high level, and that people have good memories of Oklahoma State and of Stillwater. And, when they come back, they tell me how much they miss it, and that's special.
You mentioned graduation. Can you recall what your graduation rate was with your women golfers during your coaching career? Unless
they transferred to another school, I can't think of any that didn't graduate.
That's incredible.
But that may not be true. We'd have to go back and look. It's probably not perfect, but it was darn close. But you're not going to get a lot of women golfers that don't graduate. I mean, they're going to come in and spend 4 years and graduate. Now, some of them are going to transfer out, but they're most likely going to graduate at other places.
Gosh, that's interesting. Looking back on your coaching career, is there anything you'd have done differently, Amy?
I probably tried to be more sensitive, and I kind of tend to be direct, and maybe I learned to be a little less direct sometimes with certain people. I don't think, depending on where people are from, they may not be used to that type of direct communication, and for me, it's just easier to get it over with and get it out. And out in the open, and sometimes you have to kind of tailor your remarks and kind of go slow a little bit.
But other than that,
I don't have any regrets really, Jerry. I try not to live my life that way. I try to, just do the best I can. And I know sometimes you have to look back and change your behavior or wish you had done some things differently. And I certainly learn a lot every single day. But at the same time, I think you can waste a lot of energy worrying about things in the past too.
Kind of speaking of the women's golf program, kind of where you left it, where it is today. What will be the keys to continued success for our program in the future?
Well, I'll be 100% honest. I think it's been hard with the coaches turnover. When I decided to move into administration, Mike McGraw took over. Who was our assistant coach, who helped our women's team that last year, and that was a tough transition for him. And then he decided that wasn't the best thing for him, and so then I think actually after that, Coach Holder became the athletic director, and so then Mike McGraw became the men's coach, and then we had to find another women's coach. Right. So, after 20. If Ann started in 77 and I started in 2000, so after 23 years of the same coach, then you had seven years overlapping of the same assistant and then head coach. And then with a lot of the same, I think, energy and some of the same philosophy. then you had an interim basically, and then you had a totally new person from the outside. And so I think that there's just kind of a gap between, kind of the way we've always done things here and bringing in an outside person that didn't really adjust. And so Laura's not the head coach anymore. Excuse me. And now bringing in Annie Young, who was part of the program, but still is very, very young, no pun intended. And she hasn't coached before. And so it's, she's learning and doing a great job, but it's going to take her a while to figure it all out. And I had 3 years as an assistant coach. Right. And Mike McGraw has had, that's all he's ever done is coach golf, either at high school or collegiate level. So I think that's been the toughest transition. And I think the key to maintaining success, to answer your question, Jerry, is that we need some stability, with the coach, and give Annie some time and let her bring in her own recruits and develop a system and kind of grow with it.
Okay. But the budget and facilities,
better than ever.
I think are adequate for what you need.
Better than ever. Coaches' salaries, facility, budget, fundraising, everything better than ever.
Feel good about all those things.
Better than ever.
Good. Excellent.
It's more resources than you could shake a stick at compared to other people that in golf.
Super.
Yeah. Yeah, I interviewed one summer for the Tulsa job.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to come over to interview for the opening. And it was flattering, and it was very nice.
This is when you were assistant coach?
No, this was when I was the head coach.
Oh, head coach. Okay.
And I do remember this about the budget. I do remember them showing me the budget, and I remember going, "That's your travel budget?" And the AD is sitting there, and I probably one of those sensitivity things I should have learned, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah. I think I left that office thinking, how do they get from A to B?
How do they get to be as good as they were at one point? They
had a great leader and a great coach, and Dale McNamara, and then her daughter after that. But I was just really, really, really surprised.
Wow, that's fantastic. Did you have a chance, speaking of that, to talk to some of your counterparts in the conference, and is our facilities, our budget, our travel thing?
I don't know how I think I know a lot more about budgets now as far as total departmental budgets than I did then. But Oklahoma State still ranks about halfway, midpoint in the Big 12 with total resources.
Right.
So if you kind of think that it's probably about the same percentages, that's almost 10 years ago and 6 years ago now as it was. Then as it was now, then it was probably about the same. I just think that golf had been such a great sport for us at OSU, and Ann and Coach Holder had done such a phenomenal job, making sure golf had the resources that it needed to be successful. And because they were so successful, I think we just kind of had an edge. It's just kind of like wrestling here. There's two sports that have been phenomenal here for history, and it's golf and wrestling. And I think that's just a tribute to the people that have managed the programs. It's a tribute to the history and to the donors that have contributed, and to the time and energy and personal. Basically, Ann and Mike both, that's all they did was coach golf. They gave up, a lot of their family time and a tremendous amount of personal time to do better for golf and to raise more money for golf, and for Mike obviously to build the golf course in Karsten Creek. Who does that? So I think it's just a special program here.
Speaking of that, the facilities and those sorts of things that you have here, is there anything that you wish you had for the program that you don't have?
If then when I was coaching, I can't think of any. And I can't think of anything now. But like I said, I haven't really thought about it in 6 years. I have other things to worry about. So I can think of a lot of things we need in other sports.
Right, exactly. Well, you're talking about the dollars and fundraising. Could you talk a little bit about the Cowboy Golf Tournament, the fundraiser that they have every spring, and Ann started way back in '79, I think.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ann started a tournament called the Cowgirl Classic, very similar to what Mike Holder had always done with the Cowboy Pro-Am. And it's just a great time to just come in and have a fundraiser for women's golf, and guys and girls come in and play a scramble, and you can try to get some alum and some current players playing with them to meet them, and you just have a great day.
Super.
Raise money, have fun.
What kind of money do you raise for the tournament each year?
I'd have to go back and look. I think we would raise about $90,000 to $100,000, maybe sometimes 70 to 80 a year per day.
And that's a difference maker for the program too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the foundation. So, I mean, just for instance, say our equipment budget was, I don't know, I'm just making up this number, $10,000 for women's golf back then, which is, I don't think it is now, but say it was $10,000 for equipment. Well, by the time you bought just uniforms, just uniform shorts and shirts and stuff, you could easily spend, $4,000. Okay, well, what if we needed rain suits, because you need rain suits and stuff like that. And that's something that we didn't have, a manufacturing contract. So if you bought, nice rain suits, well, they're about $350 to $500 a piece, Gore-Tex. And I mean, it's something that you really need to have a really good piece of outerwear for golf, So you can imagine once you buy, 8 of those, that it can get a little bit expensive. So that's where those things helped. Just helped with the little things.
In 2004, you were appointed to the position of Associate Director of Athletics and Senior Woman Administrator for OSU. This must have been quite an honor, and certainly coming fairly early in your career. But on the other hand, was it a tough decision for you to give up golf, Amy?
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk through how
Sure.
that happened and what your thought process was?
Absolutely.
Because you just turned the program really around. You'd been dipped a little bit, brought up. You'd finished in the top 5 with 4 years in a row.
Yep.
And just been national.
Not 4, 3 out of 4. We finished 13th one year.
Sorry about that. But finished your last year as a runner-up.
Yeah.
So probably good things, maybe better things are on the horizon for OSU women's golf.
Yeah, I think that's probably true too.
Is it a tough decision for you?
This is what happened. About in April-ish, Harry Birdwell, who was the athletic director at the time, Ann Baer had announced her retirement for the following year. And he approached me and said, there's been some talk that you might be a good person for this job. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, but I'm a golf coach. And he said, yeah, I know, but you've done very well with your program, and I think you might have a skill set that could really help me. And I said, okay. And he said, why don't you just think about it for a little bit, and then we'll talk about it again. So I thought about it for a little bit. We talked about it a little bit more, and of course, the job had to be opened up, obviously, to the public, and I had to go through the application process. But anyhow, here's the deal, is that long story short, I wanted to make a decision whether that was something that I wanted to do or not before the end of the season. So basically I told Harry, look, if this is a real deal and I really have a chance to get this job, okay, I'll do it. But I'm telling you now that, you better give me the job, because the HR would go crazy on our oral history project here. But anyway, but I said, you better give me the job, because I'm not going to go back to golf after this. Like, once I decide that I'm going to move forward and move into administration and do this with you, that's it. I'm not going to waffle, because I didn't want the success or failure of my team that year to affect my decision. I didn't feel like that was healthy for me going forward, because then I would always look back and say, well, why did I do that? Did I make a decision to move into administration because we won? Did I make a decision to move into administration because we lost? I didn't ever want to look back and wonder that. So the whole time I was coaching that very successful postseason, I knew that I was leaving my job. And I thought about it every single day. But here was my decision, is that I was 29 years old at the time. The only thing I had ever done was coach golf or play golf in college. And I had not worked in another professional setting or environment. All I had done was coach. And so I started thinking, okay, so if I coach again for 10 more years or whatever that is, then I'll be 39 years old. The only thing I ever will have done is coach golf, and I can be as successful as anything in the world, but then what am I going to do? Am I going to continue to coach golf? I don't know. I have a lot of interest in a lot of different things. And so I thought, okay, here's my problem, is that I'm going to end up being a 40 or 50-year-old woman. Only thing I've ever done is coach golf, and then what am I going to do? Go work at a golf course? Give lessons? No, that's not what I'm going to do. And so I decided that this decision was really about the rest of my life, as opposed to short term. And that was that. And some days I feel really, really good about it, and some days I really don't. But
as you look out there in the golf course, I kind of like to be out there.
That's exactly right. And I miss the young people. But at the end of the day, I think the skill set that I've developed and moved into in administration will carry me further down the road into my career, into my 50s and 60s in athletics, as opposed to being a golf coach for the rest of my life.
Can you talk about some of your job responsibilities, Amy, and your day-to-day activities as a senior woman administrator?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a jambalaya of a lot of different things. I do have direct supervision over 3 sports: softball, soccer, and then track and field for men and women. So I work with those coaches, not always on a daily basis, but just when things come up here, there, and yonder, and then I also work in marketing and promotions. So I manage all of the staff that does all the in-game promotions and operations. So we do all the video boards, we do all the game day scripting, we do a lot of execution with Learfield Sports, which is our 3rd-tier media rights provider. We do all the advertising. We work a little bit with the website, although Kevin Clintworth works with them primarily, but we work a lot with the web. Like I said, a lot print, radio, TV, 3rd tier, all that.
So, Amy, again, you work with
soccer, softball, track and field,
Mm-hmm. and golf.
No, golf does not report to me. It reports to Mike Holder.
Okay, that's interesting.
Well, he's a golfer too.
That's right.
He's a lot better than me.
Did you want it that way, or did he want it that way?
No, that's his decision. He's the boss, so he makes that decision.
Okay. All right. You described?
I talk to Annie all the time, so it's not. It's not like we don't communicate about golf, and I'm here to help however I can.
Sure.
It's just a paper thing anyway.
Can you talk a little bit about the organizational structure of the athletics department, how it works, and where you fit into that scheme of things?
I report to Mike Holder, the athletic director.
Okay.
And then I have my employees, that under me on the flow chart, and I report to him.
So what other at your level are there other associate?
There's other associate ADs.
Okay.
Yes, Kevin Clintworth works with media relations. Jason Lewis works with the business operations. Marty Sargent works with game operations and safety. He also does a lot of travel, all the charters for the teams that do charters and such like that, operations. And then Dave Martin's our senior associate athletic director. So, but technically I don't report to him. Technically, I report to Mike Holder, but Dave is definitely my superior.
Who do the other team sports report to?
Let's see. Tennis, men's and women's tennis report to Jason Lewis. He's a tennis guy. And then baseball and equestrian and wrestling report to Dave Martin. Golf, men's and women's report to Mike Holder. Football and men's and women's basketball report to Mike Holder. And I think that's it.
Okay.
But Mike and Dave buddy up on all the football and men's and women's basketball issues.
Okay. In wrestling?
I think that's right. Wrestling, Dave Martin.
Dave. Mm-hmm.
He's the wrestling expert.
Okay. Under the current structure, how are decisions made that affect women's sports? Budget, staffing, fundraising? How are those decisions made?
Yeah, fundraising would just all be under, Mike's barrel and major gifts and stuff like that. So coaches can do fundraising and campaigns to enhance their foundations to use for, discretionary spending. But mostly, all the big projects, facility projects, all of that is done, with Mike and his vision. And we talk about those things, all the time, what facilities we're going to build next, where the need is the most and that kind of thing. As far as staffing, I've been involved in a lot of coaches changes the last 6 years and hiring new coaches. I've been involved in almost every one of those for women's sport. And then either, really doing the search myself and working with Mike to select the coach, or being a host and kind of an assistant, giving information or doing background research. And then you said kind of decision making. We really make a lot of decisions by group. Here we have a Tuesday senior staff meeting that a lot of people, are able to throw their ideas in the hat and back and forth and sit around and talk about things. And, Mike will come in and sit down and say, hey, what do you think about this? This is kind of what I'm thinking. When I've got a staffing decision with one of my sports, I'll talk with that coach, and then we'll take that up to Mike for approval or not. Basically, that's just kind of how it goes. Pretty simple.
Amy, what basically what percentage, say, of the budget would be the women's program as opposed to men's program?
I can look up the number, Jerry, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
I just didn't one sense if it's like a fourth, a third, or
how much
that total budget was women's sports.
No idea.
Okay. Do you have any sense of, and maybe this is just a general kind of question, but do you have any sense of how well women's sports are funded at OSU compared to other Big 12 schools?
Well, we're fully funded as far as our scholarships. Of course, it's basically uncommon, for a BCS equity, Big Six, conference school not to be. I don't know that there's any that aren't. And then, generally, we have a great Nike contract for our equipment for our teams, which is actually superior to Nike contracts at some of our peers. We have decent facility for a few of our sports. And then I think budget-wise, we're generally in pretty good shape. There may be some extra things like, midweek charters occasionally with planes for teams like softball or soccer, or even baseball that don't, get to charter as much as maybe a University of Texas or an OU does. But, they've got, Texas has a $126 million budget and we're at about 50. And OU has a $76 million budget, and we're at 50. So, and we basically have the same number of athletes at all of those sports. So, honestly, I think I don't know of anything other than facility issues that we really have problems with right now.
I wanted to pick that up with you on facilities. There are a lot of proposed facilities in the Athletic Village project. What's the status of those? I don't know. I'm not an expert. That changes every single day. So you'd have to ask Mike. I really don't know. What were some of the women's venues included in the Athletic Village? There was
track and field,
soccer, tennis. Those, and then there's some talk about equestrian.
Absolutely. Well, they did make an exchange with campus to take over, that section of land where the old swine facility used to be off Highway 51.
So it's going to be over there now?
That's my understanding, but I haven't asked an update on that in a long time, Jerry.
Okay. As senior woman administrator, are issues of concern for you for going forward, recruiting and being competitive nationally?
Are there facility issues? Well, yeah. They're a concern for everybody, not just me.
Where do you think, in terms of facilities, are we lacking, and where do we need to be enhanced?
We lack in almost every facility except for football, men's and women's basketball.
I know in the women's pro, like tennis, for example, it doesn't really have an indoor workout facility. They have to go. Yeah, men's and women's tennis.
We equally discriminate in those sports. There's no indoor practice facility for them.
Okay. We talked earlier about you had the excellent graduation rate that you had for your women's golf program. How does women's sports generally, and graduation rates compare to the men's athletes?
I'm sorry, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. It's higher because you don't have the professional opportunities, and you don't have the number of professional opportunities. Football really skews those numbers considerably.
I think baseball does as well.
Yeah, baseball does as well, but at the same time, you just don't have the number of professional opportunities. So, 95+% of your women athletes intend on graduating either at the school they begin at or the school they transfer to, and I think most of them do. I just don't know those numbers. It's not in the 90%, but it's probably pretty high. You should get, Marilyn Middlebrook could tell you all that stuff. I just don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. What are some of your greatest challenges as senior woman administrator?
I think the challenge is just kind of managing, the wants and the needs, and my bullpen didn't get raked this morning.
Amy, you're talking about some of the challenges that you have as senior woman administrator.
Yeah, I think it's just balance. I mean, every administrator, you have the wants and the needs of the programs, and then you're trying to balance that with the reality of whatever the budget, limitations are, or staffing limitations, or balanced decision making. And I think that's just the hardest thing. But that's part of that's part of everybody's job every day, no matter what you do. It's just finding that balance.
Amy, I'm just reflecting on our conversation. From the time you started in your position to now, has it changed any? I guess, saying candidly, the title Senior Woman Administrator might entail this person's in charge of all the women's sports, for example.
Yeah, it's
From our conversation, I understand that it's not.
No, it's not.
Do you feel any sense of overall responsibility, not specific job duties, but responsibilities for the women's program?
I mean, yes and no. A little more no than yes. The title Senior Woman Administrator is a title that the NCAA created years ago, probably around '92 when they began sponsoring women's sports and women's championships, and it's a reporting title.
Okay.
So, for instance, they decided that every university that's a member of the division, that's a member of the NCAA, had to denote a senior woman administrator, basically the highest ranking female member of your staff. And it is, in my opinion, it's actually very antiquated, and it probably had its purpose back then in reporting and memoing and making sure people get information. But basically the way they do it is they want the athletic director to know certain things, and they want a female in the department to know certain things. And so they came up with the Senior Woman Administrator title, SWA. And so that's basically what it is. And I mean, it actually, you can see why, because a lot of people, you just get something to the AD in a lot of places and they would never disperse the information where it needed to go.
Sure.
And so that's why I think that started. And so it's changed, over the years to where, like, for instance, Ann Barry used to oversee almost all the women's sports.
Right.
Well, I don't. And I do other things, in marketing and promotion. And then Harry, when he hired me, he asked me to work in fundraising and to help, bring awareness and raise funds for facilities. So
had that changed when you came in 2004? Others, and you were basically filling the position that Ann had.
Yes,
they made that change at that point.
Yes.
So you never really had that overall responsibility for all the women's programs like Ann had, for example.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Do you see any future additions, deletions to the women's sports program? Adding or dropping sports?
You mean adding or dropping future additions? I mean, obviously, if we got into a situation where we needed more numbers for Title IX compliance, we're not in that situation right now. Excuse me.
What would be something that'd be on the rise? Let me first of all back and ask: are we counting equestrian now? Is it?
Yeah, we always have.
Always have. And it's still not a full-blown recognized.
That's right. It's not an NCAA championship sport. It's an NCAA emerging sport.
Okay. But back to the question about what, I mean, if we needed to add a program to, would you see what sports we might be considering?
Well, the only thing that we don't have that's prevalent in the Big 12 is volleyball. We're the only school in the Big 12 that doesn't have volleyball.
Okay.
But volleyball would only give us, 16 or 17 participants. So, you might add volleyball, but it might not be the most cost-effective thing for us to do, considering the number of participants that we might need in the future. But right now, we're very compliant with participation numbers with Title IX, so we feel good about that.
How is that? Is it a direct 50-50, or how do they?
No, it's
what
they
do you
want
need
you
to be in compliance?
One of the prongs. There's a few areas, and the way we are compliant, and we have a consultant that comes in every year and does a study, is that you take the percentage of your student body, male and female, and in Oklahoma State it's about 51% male and 49% female. And if you can mirror those numbers within 2%, then you're providing adequate opportunities for your population.
So that's still roughly pretty close to 50-50 number of student athletes,
That's
men and women.
That's right.
Okay. And
it's a little bit skewed, Jerry, in all honesty, because track is a triple counter sport.
Yeah.
So you've got the same group of young women that are cross country, indoor, and outdoor track athletes.
Counting three
and
times.
they basically, well, some of them do and some of them don't.
Get some overlap. I understand. want to come back into your question about facilities. What is, men's and women's, particularly, your sports that you're working with, are we working on, and what progress has been made towards enhancing our facilities?
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, it's something Mike does every single day. I mean, it's always about, finding ways to get more donors involved with the facilities and starting the athletic village, if you want to call it that, and getting a track built for the team and getting a new soccer stadium built, and getting a tennis facility built. And I mean, it's really not my area of expertise right now, but
those are some of the priorities we have for future expansion facilities. So for women's, it'd be certainly tennis and soccer.
Well, like I said, there's really not a women's sport that doesn't have a facility, because we have men's and women's track and field. We have men's and women's tennis. So those are group facilities that the boys and girls would use together. The only one that is, out there kind of on its own is soccer. Soccer has an excellent playing surface right now, which is really, really good. And they have a good grandstand for their crowds. They don't have, there's no flush toilets at the facility, and the press box is really old, but we kind of limp by out there right now, and it's okay. It's not great.
Not wanting to add facilities until you know that you're not going to be able to expand to another.
That's exactly
facility.
right. And we haven't spent any money out there in years because we're trying to put all of our eggs into the basket for the new stadium.
Thank you. What are some of the emerging trends for women's sports, Amy, that you see, and in what ways do you see women's intercollegiate sports changing in the future?
Well, I mean, I've got basketball on my mind right now because last night UConn won the national championship and has won, I guess, 78. Is it 77 or 78 games in a row? They've been undefeated for 2 seasons and won two national championships in a row. And I think that the media attention to women's collegiate athletics, the opportunities for young people, they have so many more role models that are tangible, that are right there in front of them, that they can see on TV every day. I mean, when I was growing up, were there some women on ESPN? Yeah, but not a lot. Now you turn on ESPN last night, and it's a tremendous amount of coverage about the UConn Huskies or in the Stanford game, and there's really so much more attention given to the athletes. I think that will inspire a whole larger group, a much larger generation of participants, in athletics, and it's just common every day that your kids play, the boys and the girls play, they play together, they have girls teams to play on, or they could play on boys teams, whatever it is, the opportunities are there. There's more organized sports for young people to get involved, whether it be at YMCA or at church leagues or whatever it is, and it's just much different than it was even 35 years ago. When I was 5 years old, I mean, when I was 5, you could play soccer, or if you were a country club kid like I was, you could play golf or tennis, and that was really about the extent of what we had when I was growing up at that age. Well, after you get a little older, you can play basketball, but now when you're 5 and 6, you can play t-ball, you can play, and it's all organized through YMCA or youth leagues or park and recreation or whatever it is, but there's tons of opportunities available. You can play sports all year round, and the teams are readily available and they're reasonably organized.
Well, Amy, are there any not so positive trends you think of? And I mean, some people would say, for example, maybe there's women's sports are now becoming more like men's in the sense that there's more, emphasis on competing, maybe less on academics.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening, and the reason I say so is because there's not professional opportunities. And, the WNBA has done better than people, I think, expected it to, and right now it seems to be a reasonable business model. But that's still only a 1% of, there's they keep like 10 people on each team, and I think there's 8 or 10 teams. I mean, that's 100 athletes, let's say, out of there's 318 women's basketball programs in the NCAA. So, I mean, the math on that is
right. Maybe
you
10 to 1%.
Right. I mean, you just don't have the professional opportunities in women's sports. Soccer players don't have professional opportunities. They have Olympic opportunities. And same thing in softball. You have Olympic and national team opportunities. but you just don't have the professional opportunities. So I don't think that the graduation rates are going to shrink for women. In fact, I think they'll probably get better.
Anything, in your personal opinion, having been a former player and coach, anything you'd like to see trend a different direction than the way it is?
I can't say that I feel like things are in a bad place right now. I mean, I think you always want, great female athletes to be recognized as much as a great male athlete. But I think that that's happening a lot more. I mean, in golf, when Annika Sorenstam was playing and, played in the Colonial at the men's tournament and received a tremendous amount of media attention for that. The record that she set when she was playing was very well covered by the media and by the public. I think all those opportunities will come. I mean, with people having great success will come great opportunities. And as time goes, there'll be fewer and fewer people, on earth that ever knew that women didn't have the same opportunities that men did.
And it is an interesting observation, because having the opportunity in my lifetime to kind of see that Oklahoma State University, having been in fundraising, working with sports back in the late 70s,
right.
It has changed. It is a sea change in the last 20 years.
And, and the people, Jerry, that I work with now, some people that I even manage, and you have to think the athletes that we have right now were born in like 1990.
Wow. We
have athletes that were born in 1990, and they have no concept of lack of opportunity.
Right.
Which is the way it's supposed to go, which is the way the world's supposed to work. For me, anyway.
Well, we talk about fundraising. Fundraising and revenue raising generally continue to be more important in the future for women in sports. You mentioned the coverage on TV contracts, gate receipts of the games. That seems to be trending upward.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll trend upward, and I think some people say that UConn going 2 years undefeated is bad for women's basketball. Well, yes and no. I mean, I look at it as in, if you're a young person and you're 5 and 6 and 8 years old and you watch that team, you're more likely to be inspired than you are to question why no one's competing very hard against them, at that time. And for you and I, it's okay to say, man, I wish someone would come up there and give them a good game, But, we're already well invested. I mean, you're talking about the next generation of people, and I think that they're going to inspire, more than they're going to negatively affect the platform. But so I don't know. I think that success, is just it's good for everybody.
Are you involved in fundraising within the department at all?
Not really. I mean, occasionally if there's a team or something, I'll ask. There's somebody will ask me. I'll help however I can, but it's not something I actively do every day. No, sir.
Okay. What do you like most about your job?
I like knowing that I have a hand in all the programs and all the teams, and I've really enjoyed hiring new coaches for some of our sports, and being involved in kind of changing the landscape and watching them be successful, and being able to be involved with when Kurt Budke was hired, and when we hired Rich Willigman in softball, and Chris Young in women's tennis now, who's a really fantastic young coach. I've been really proud of those things, knowing that new energy in that direction will give our athletes such a better experience here. And being involved in the decision making that helps the student athlete experience for other sports really is special.
Are there some aspects of the job that aren't as satisfying to you as others?
Oh, but yes, but that's true of every job. It's true of every job. This is a good gig. This is a great place to work, and this is a good environment. I can't think of anything specifically that's worth mentioning.
Okay. Amy, what again, talking about women's intercollegiate athletics at Oklahoma State, you participated in starting in the early 90s to now, so you've had a pretty good, nearly a 20-year look at the program. How is it, are you satisfied with the change and where the program's going at Oklahoma State?
Sure.
And what things do you like about it the most?
I think the thing that I like the most right now is that there's a really strong emphasis on success and on, you know, and I hate to be, this sounds a little shallow and short-sighted, but on winning. But at the end of the day, that's what those athletes want to be a part of. You know, I mean, men or women, doesn't matter. They want to be a part of championship teams and to have quality coaching staffs in place and to have a direction where we need to, you know, go for facilities and to have an athletic director that understands it's not acceptable for tennis not to have a facility. I mean, he thinks about that every single day. And he thinks about the fact that track has an absolute abysmal facility and that we have some of the best runners in the country coming to Oklahoma State because we have a high quality coaching staff that's running a really good program, and that it's not acceptable for those athletes to come here and not have a better experience. That's what I really get excited about because it'll change. And it's going to take a few years, but it's going to change.
I'm going to guess the response to this question, Amy, but you know, again, in women's sports, are you comfortable that over the years where it's improved and changed to the point that you feel that it's at a point of parity with men's sports here at Oklahoma State in the Big 12 nationally?
Oh, I wouldn't say parity. To give you an example, we had an academic banquet Monday night. An award was given, the same award to a male and female athlete. The Oklahoma decides to write an article about the winner of the male recipient and not the female. So, I mean, is it ever going to be, you know, par on parity? You know, probably not. But it's public opinion and people make decisions based on their viewers and their readers and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing in athletics. I mean, we have to make decisions based on where money comes in and how to make more money to do better for other sports. So, you know, as long as leadership continues to strive and to filter down and trickle down, you know, nickels and dimes and dollars so that everybody keeps moving up and then we don't become stagnant at the top with just a few sports, then that'll make me really very happy.
Okay.
And right now that's what I see.
We talked a little bit about, I guess, off-season programs in golf is not truly one, but in terms of, say, you know, women's sports, it's become increasingly more visible, more competitive, which are, you know, good things we've talked about, receive recognition, TV contracts, etc. How has that influenced and changed women's sports in terms of off-season programs, strength and conditioning programs, other things? Has it changed in any way, women's sports?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a full year deal now. So, you know, a basketball athlete, they finish high school, they come into summer school, they immediately get into strength and conditioning to get ready for their upcoming, you know, season, whether they're a redshirt or not. It used to be that you showed up on campus a week before school started, figured it all out over the next 3 months, and then started playing almost immediately, and that's changed for almost every sport. And then they also have opportunities to play, you know, in the summer and to keep a high level of conditioning up and to stay here and train and condition in the summer and work out and stay fit, go to summer school.
Have you visited with former players and coaches about their early experiences and challenges of emerging, you know, when the women's programs were merged? We're going back for you, as you might not have been born at that time, but back in the early period, you said you'd visit with Ann an awful lot. If you've talked with former coaches of that era, former players of that era, what did you pick up on some of their challenges that they had and how those shifted?
Yeah, those are books. Yeah. Those are books of challenges. But I mean, it just was about, you know, I mean, when Ann used to talk about it, it was about, you know, they just didn't have anything. And it was, you know, trying to scrape together, you know, whatever they could to make sure they had golf tees, and, you know, everybody wore a white shirt or everybody wore an orange shirt or whatever it was, you know, just doing the best they could. But I mean, it was about also but also it wasn't just also about challenges or discrimination. It was about the great opportunity that they had to go out and play and how happy it made them and how fulfilling it was. And really the only two sports that I have any real contact with alumni are a little bit of women's basketball because I knew some people that were on that coaching staff that actually played here, but golf and softball. And I mean, everybody pretty much says the same thing, is that, yeah, we didn't have what the guys had, but they didn't have really much either if you really look back at it. And we were just so glad and so happy to get to play that we really didn't care.
You were in the discussion, and I'm asking again through Ann and others, do you remember what the time of transitioning women's facilities, men's facilities? At one time, the women were under physical education and recreation program department before they merged in 78.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert at that. Yeah. No, I mean, I know that, people will talk about, there was a lot of paperwork and documentation of people that had participated in women's sports, whether they be club sports or, I guess you could almost equate it to like a club or an intramural, sport at the time. And those teams definitely existed, for probably over 100 years. But the record keeping, wasn't always there. And just on campus, the things just didn't get, archived. And then when they came into the athletic department, I know there was there was some resentment, and with shuffling of paper and office space and salaries and who was going to do what and who, and I can just imagine how that might have been, to kind of take, from physical education or HHP or whatever you call it on campus, and human health performance, I guess, or whatever, and bringing it over to general intercollegiate athletics. But you still had different championship directors with AIAW and the NCAA, and so that's different. And I can imagine that it was tough, but.
Amy, speaking of that, one of the questions I'm going to visit with Ann a little bit about is the old AIAW as opposed to the NCAA.
Yeah, she's an expert. I really don't know a lot about it.
Picking up you on the NCAA, you feel that the NCAA over the years, the way it's evolved, is it really moved to the point of being supportive of women's athletics to the extent it is men's?
Yeah, but they don't have a choice. I mean, they don't have a choice. So I don't know I've never had a personal conversation with people that run the NCAA about being supportive.
I mean, the tournaments and...
Oh, yeah. The tournaments are basically mirror images of each other. The venues are a little bit different. Obviously, the television contracts are significantly different. Right. But that's not the NCAA's fault. That's the general public's fault, because the general public and the business market are what, decide what those are valued at. That's our own fault. So that's not the fault of the NCAA.
Well, Amy, speaking of you a little bit personally and professionally, where we talked about coaching and administration, where you want to be when you're in your 50s. Maybe 10 years now, where do you see yourself?
I don't know, Jerry. I can't even get close to answering those questions. I think about stuff every single day. But I think that's just a part of me. I don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years. Do you want to be in the sports arena in that area? Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's what I know. It's what I know how to do.
Here's your question.
No, I think about it all the time. I think about what I'm going to do in 10 years all the time, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
You ever see yourself going back in coaching?
Maybe not. I don't think it ever at the Division I level again, because I think after you're out of a game for a certain period of time, you get so far behind that it's too hard to catch up. But maybe so. I don't know about the golf part, but maybe be involved with a team somehow. Working with a team or something like that. I don't know.
You've got a lot of your career in front of you, Amy. But to this point, how do you hope people remember Amy Weeks?
Well, I hope someone that was fun and enjoyed and had a strong passion for what she does, and be very loyal, and supportive of Oklahoma State.